Oh, hello everybody. Welcome to CCCcast, where two corvids and a cat, usually, but not today, talk about music. Today, we
Yay.
are going to be continuing the Autechre Marathon that we started last time with
Yes.
Nebula, and we're continuing it by reviewing Autechre's second album, Amber. Yay!
Yes. Awesome.
Yeah, so uh there's not really much to talk about beforehand. We're going to be doing the track by track review like we have last time. We didn't receive any emails because
Yeah.
nobody emailed us. So I guess we can just jump right into it with the first track on the album, Foil.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, like Incunabula, this album also has kind of like a very distinctive opening sound. I think Amity is already bullying me in the text chat. Oh God.
No, she isn't.
Okay.
She will though. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Okay. She
agree.
will at some point.
I think the way that this album starts off with that wobbly freaking we sound,
It's
the
like
like bassy, like I don't know how to describe that. I don't want to say it's
it's
metallic
like
because it is metallic, but like
it does feel metallic, but it's like liquid metal. It's like a
sure, molten metal. Sure,
yeah,
I
it's
guess.
like a,
Not
a,
gonna
a
be.
wavering pool.
Yeah,
You know?
it is. I would say that it's liquidy. It feels almost watery, but it feels. It's like mercury. It's mercury. That's
Yeah,
the way that
that's
I would
a
describe
good
it.
description.
Um,
Yeah,
I think that
the
sets up the tone for
Mercury
the album
opening.
really well. Um,
Yeah,
and it's a pretty cool sound, in my opinion.
uh-huh. Like immediately from the start, you can tell that there's something a little bit different to what's going on here compared to Incunabula. Like,
Yeah, and compared to Incunabula, I think immediately having that be the first sound that you hear is like, okay, Autechre are immediately stepping up their sound design game in a big way.
yeah,
And I think that that continues with each and every sound that kind of gets layered into the track, um,
right.
where you have that 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 drum sound that comes in that kind of maneuvers
Oh yeah,
around the soundscape around the frickin' the whoosh, the
yeah.
mercury.
It's
Um and it sounds the sound design is immediately much more interesting than Incunabula. Not that
yeah.
Incunabula is
It's
bad, but on a pure sound design or textural level, whichever one you want to say, because I know people have different definitions of things. Um, it's immediately like more intriguing. It's more unique and it's
yeah,
more
yeah.
interesting.
It feels fuller, a little bit drier and more modern, and like that kind of uh, hauntological sort of sound that Incunabula had because of its age is just not really there anymore. And like it has its own thing, of course, in its place. It has a lot more genuinely really interesting stuff going on, but just yeah, it's much more drier and more modern feeling. Um, but yeah, like you were saying, it just has like that crazy pitched percussion kind of thing that's made out of like this phased white noise that it just moves around and makes almost kind of a melody almost like
Yes, I am a stan for pitched percussion. I think pitched percussion is the best thing of all time. I think I talked about this
yeah.
in the first one because I think there was a track that had pitched percussion and that served as the melody, and I was like, I'm going insane. I love this. That's definitely my favorite aspect about this track in particular.
Yeah.
I think that the the way that the percussion, the way it sounds staticky, it just sounds like kind of static, almost fizzling out. Is It's a really cool sound, and
Yeah.
I think that the way that it maneuvers around the pitch, the percussion is wonderful.
Yeah, and that's not even the only interesting sound here. Like a very first track, and you immediately have like these weird wood block sounds and like these really interesting little tiny tapping noises doing these
Mhm.
really quick little rolls in the percussion. That's just like you wouldn't hear anything like that on Incunabula.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
really like the subtle tiptoeing, kind of clicking
Yeah.
percussion that gets
Yeah.
overlaid over it. Um,
It's like, yeah,
but
that's like tiptoeing. That's a good way to say it.
the the thing is,
Uh-huh.
I like this track a lot, because it's an
Uh-huh.
Autechre song, but ultimately I think that this is one of the weaker songs on the album,
Yeah.
and within their discography in general.
Oh,
I think
really?
it does a good job at setting up the album. I think it does a good job at kind of being like, okay, here's some cool sound design, to get you into it.
Yeah.
But the track doesn't really evolve too much. It doesn't really do anything interesting. And I know that this is going to be
Oh,
something that it's going to be a big thing going forward. Um, I
yeah.
like it when my tracks evolve in some way, or otherwise is very blatantly like an ambience sort of deal, where or like a drone type deal where it's built around like very explicitly like this one idea. And
Yeah.
I think for those tracks to work, the one idea needs to be really good.
Uh-huh.
In this case, I like the one idea, and I think it does. I think it does evolve subtly, as it goes
Oh,
forward
yeah, of
and into
course,
the
it
ending. I think
no,
the
yeah.
pitch percussion sound gets more like garbled, and like the sounds dance around each other. But there's not
Yeah.
a lot in terms of a strong sense of melody here. Um, which of course there is
Interesting.
melody, but I find it significantly less striking than other tracks on the album.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, yeah, I think I might like it a little bit more than you do. Like, I mean, it is kind of a secondary track. It is kind of like the album's cowpole intro, I guess.
Yeah,
It's closer to being a full song than that is, but it is sort of kind of an intro to the album, although, I do have to shout out that it has its own uniquely dark and mysterious kind of atmosphere right from the get-go.
yeah,
And
no, I
yeah,
agree with that, and I think it does a good job at setting up the tone of Amber. I
right.
think I want to talk about the cover art, for a
Okay.
second. I
Okay,
think
yeah,
I
yeah.
think going forward, talking about Autechre cover art is going to be important. Um, I think that immediately having this track, this like really dark track at the first song of the album, when the first thing you obviously know about the album is the cover art, as with any album.
Uh,
Like 99% of the time you're gonna see the cover art first, setting
right.
you up for like this pink weird soundscape, uh,
Uh-huh.
sort of thing, and then having this really dark track be the first track instead,
It's a weird
contrasting with like,
contrast.
yeah, it's really weird and it's really interesting, but I think Optic would do that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
There is something like kind of similarly austere about um the way this track opens up the album and the album art. So it links in a weird kind of obscure way, but I don't know, it's just a really interesting decision. Yeah,
yeah,
and I think that's about all I would like to say about the song, but I would like to shout out what you were talking about earlier, where later in the song they have like that where the pitched percussion really starts to get mangled. Like just some of the shapes that they bend that sheet of static into were just like really nuanced and really like just on the next level from anything you would hear on their previous
Oh yeah,
stuff. And it's just really,
definitely
really
a
good.
step up. Definitely
Yeah,
a step up
really
from
good sound
Incunabula.
design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I don't have much else to say about Foil either.
Yeah.
So you want to move on?
But it is based song. Yeah, oh God, let's go on to Montreal, yes.
Yeah, okay. Montreal to me is like it. There's very I don't want to be like okay, her album is going to follow this pattern because this album very quickly falls off of this pattern. But this album feels to me like the bike of the album in
Yeah.
that it is kind of the baseline song for the rest of the album, and that isn't to say that it's bad at all. Because it is, it's phenomenal. I think this track is it's wonderful.
It's just like the first real tone setter that really
Yeah, and I think
fully
it's the
plunges you
song
into the
that
world.
if Foil is kind of the opening track, this is like the single or
Yep.
whatever.
Yep. The
Because
hit single. Yep.
yeah, and I think that it works incredibly well as I think I think Amber is a very emotionally straightforward album. Not in a bad way, but I think that a lot of the tracks on this album are very melancholic, are very sad, um, in that sense. And I think this track does a fantastic job at setting up that sort of atmosphere and that sort of feeling. Um,
Uh-huh.
with its with the with the fucking lush ass synth of that just like goes and envelops you. Um, of course, the
Yeah, like
first thing you hear,
uh
the main thing about this track is the percussion, the way it sounds like a marble or a coin, like you drop it and it like
yeah.
bounces, and it sounds like that, but like in a controlled setting, and it's a
Yeah,
really
like
cool sound. And you
uh-huh.
wouldn't hear that on something like Incunabula. And I think going forward, like that's just going to be the norm is Autechre making cool ass sounds.
Yeah, yeah. Totally. We'll get to that in a second. But for right now, I want to just back up real quick. You know, for me personally, you might view the album differently, but you know, I think like more so than Incunabula, this album, along with its darker moments, it also has like some lighter shades, or at least m- less menacing, I would say, than Incunabula could be.
I
Um,
disagree.
Less nocturnal. Oh, really? Okay.
I completely
Oh no.
disagree. Complete inverse opinion. There's like two tracks here that I would say are like explicitly more. I would say that there's one track here that's explicitly more um light in its atmosphere than Incunabula. In a general sense, of course, there's like tracks like Bass Cadet were really aggressive and noisy or whatever. And we don't
Yeah.
really have a track like that here. Um, but I think generally, besides the one track, which we'll get to, I think this album is significantly darker, significantly more menacing. And
Interesting.
I think it's actually one of their more menacing albums in general. And they make a lot of menacing albums.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. That's true.
at least
That's true.
in this early period of the first like five albums, it's this album and another album that stick out to me as being like the most menacing albums um, of this period.
Yeah. I don't know. It's strange to me. I. I. Don't, I. For me, like I view like the main synth motif of the song, or like the at least the first one you hear is like very almost kind of neutral and floaty and kind of withholding to me. It's not like, immediately going down a super dark path and then well, well, sorry, hold on. I lost train of thought there, trying to think about too many things at once. Autechre,
Autechre be like that.
yeah,
I
yeah,
yeah, I think I get what you mean. The way that the track it has that sort of that sort of baseline synth that you hear like immediately with the little clicking sounds, but then on top of that, and that does feel neutral and like it
yeah,
could go in either direction, but then the the kind of main melody line comes and washes on top of it, and the two in combination with each other create this. I think that the synth line, the melody line of the track is really melancholic and lonely and sad.
yeah,
And I think combined with the bass line of the track, I think it makes it really um, it gives it a more menacingly lonely quality to it, if that makes any sense.
yeah. That's interesting. I view it as kind of a bittersweetness, and it has like sort of a beautifulness to it. Like especially, I don't know. I think for whatever reason, a lot of the synth tones on this album feel kind of they have more of a sense of light to them.
Mhm.
It might be kind of a textural thing, a
No,
timbral thing.
I would agree. I think texturally
Yeah, yeah,
it feels lighter, yeah, but
yeah,
not emotionally. I think it's emotionally a lot darker than in Cannabula, if that makes any sense.
yeah. There is definitely some darkness. We spent so long arguing about the vibe. Oh God. But yeah, no, like, yeah. Aside from the vibe, whatever it is, however you interpret it, um, like you got all these fucking weird sound design details, like the marble spinning sound that just kind of anchors the whole thing. You got all these weird fucking little details in the percussion that are nice little crunchy, gritty sounds, a little sonar ping thing, but good, really good detailed sound design. Um, just really super pleasing on your ears. Yeah, and then
Yeah,
you got,
yeah, go ahead.
I don't know, oh, what was I gonna say? Yeah, like there's this synth that comes in a bit later that's like this almost holographic, translucent kind of feeling synth that, I will give it to you. The melody that this thing plays is just pretty devastating. There are a lot of pretty devastating melodies on the album.
Yeah,
It, yeah, it's really interesting because it's texturally a lot lighter and it can feel a bit sunnier in that way, but the melodies that these synths play are just, I get where you're saying. It's just like very, it's beautiful, but there's a lot of sadness to it.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
agree. I don't I don't have a lot to say about this track. Obviously, I like it a lot. I think that it doesn't develop as much, but unlike Foil, I think it's a track where I like where it is. I like where it kind of sticks around and kind of just vibes and unfolds a little bit.
A lot of
And
these early Autechre tracks just kind of set up a certain vibe and then just take out different elements and reinsert them and
yeah, yeah,
just build in waves, kind of.
yeah. One thing that I'd like to say is that the outro of the song has the percussion feel like
Uh,
they're like dripping into water or something like that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and
it's
it
like a drippy or lasery kind of noise
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something.
and it's really cool. And I wish that they developed it more. um,
Yeah,
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 they
that
have
would
a
be nice.
habit of making really cool outros and just not developing them earlier on. And it's not like that big of a deal. It's not like, oh my god, the track is ruined. But it would have been cool. Um, but besides
Oh,
that, I
they
think,
really wrote out on it.
yeah, I think that I just think this is a cool song. I think
Yeah,
I think it's a nice emotional song. Um,
yeah, it's the bike of the album, and it introduces you to the very weird emotional space that the album occupies immediately.
yeah.
And
Is there anything else you want to say?
um, I want to shout out that synth on the outro that has like kind of a phaser effect on it. I think that's really good. I like that
Of course you
effect.
do. You like phasers.
I like phasers a
That's
lot.
that's
Yeah,
one of your weaknesses.
yeah.
Um, I also have my
Sometimes
weakness. Um,
sometimes they get me with that. Sometimes Autechre does it. Uh,
yeah. Okay. Um, I guess
yeah.
time to move on. To
Oh God.
Silverside.
Oh yeah.
Yay.
Oh man. Okay.
Silverside. This is one of the biggest meme songs in Autechre's discography, at least in the circles that at least in the
Calamity.
circles that we are in. Um,
Right. Right.
and in my opinion, for good reason. Um, there was a joke that Amity said that like, oh, because Blanche is two click, that means Silverside's going to click no. It did not. Um,
Oh,
I think
Silverside even worse than Bronze.
I think this song, uh, the strings on this song
Yeah.
just do not work.
Let's let's just talk about that real quick because they go through the entire song. They're the first and the last sound you hear. Um, yeah. They're very artificial sounding MIDI strings.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember that either Sean or Rob, one of them, were talking about how this the album felt very cheesy to them. This is one of the cases where I'm like, okay, like I get it. Like most of the album, I'm like, not cheesy at all, but the strings here have that really like shitty MIDI sound to them.
Yeah. They
And not in
really.
a good way. Like, remember how I said that, like, the horns and Autechre, I guess Autechre and Silverside kind of are.
Oh
Um,
no. Oh.
but remember,
Remember.
I was like, oh, it sounds shitty, but it's like in an endearing, emotional way. Here, it just sounds like they had little to no option with the strings here, and yeah,
Yeah.
it tries to be really ominous and like a dark like film soundtrack or something. But I remember the Wonky Angle. I think because he loves this song. Shout out
Yeah.
Wonky Angle,
Shout out Rocky.
who we will disagree with respectfully. Um, it's makes it sound like a film soundtrack or something, and I just it sounds like a film soundtrack to like a really bad film.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? My dirty confession is I don't hate this one this much. To
Can't
be
believe
clear, to
you.
be clear, to be clear, it is almost certainly my least favorite on the album.
I
Yeah,
also don't hate this song.
definitely, it is my least favorite on the album, I would say.
Yeah, I also
But
don't hate this
however,
song though. Let's. I'm gonna be.
oh
There are
no,
elements of the song that I like that we can get to. But I
yeah,
just want to say that it isn't the worst Autechre song in my opinion. At least at this point in time, we'll see if
at least
the
it's not the
song in
worst right
question.
now.
We'll see if the songs, because there's like a few songs that I think are actually worse than this.
Uh-huh.
We'll see if those songs click. Because Autechre has a penchant for just making random tracks click all of a sudden for no reason. But as it stands, this song is just, it's mostly the
The midi
strings.
strings. Yeah. Yeah, I really I'm really not gonna defend too much. I'm not. I do think the chord progression they play is maybe kind of cool. It has sort of like an angular kind of feel to it, that sort of a modernistic, weird jutting out kind of feel that's sort of neat. MIDI synths.
I guess so.
I guess so. That's how I perceive it, at least. Then you.
I in my opinion, I
Yeah, I mean,
guess this song is also one of the Autechre songs that has vocal samples, and I promise you, I am not one of those people that thinks that every single time Autechre does vocal samples it sucks. Um, but
a,
in
a
this
lot of
case,
these early, versions of it, you don't really like the
yeah,
execution so
it
much.
it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. I will say that once the track starts not just being like silly, once it gets into like
Uh,
the real percussion of it, I think the percussion on this song is really good. I think that the kind of more
uh,
explosive, sort of delayed, shattery sort of percussion sound is pretty cool. It
yeah.
saves the song from not being one of the worst Autechre song in my opinion. I think there
Yeah.
is a version of this song without the percussion, um, for
Oh,
whatever
is there?
reason, which
Oh
Autechre can
no.
do whatever they want. But yeah, but
Yeah.
I think the percussion is actually pretty cool. But I think the vocal samples, strings, uh, that weird bike sound, if that makes any
Uh,
sense, if you know what I'm talking about,
Like
that comes in later. It
like
just
kind of fast wave noise, like a kind of
yeah,
rattly thing.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. It doesn't work.
Yeah. I don't. The vocal sample works for me in the same kind of way as Bass Cadet does. To be honest, we have differing opinions about these quite a bit. I like the percussion is really cool. Like you've got that echoey sound. There's a kind of a rattly kick drum, some little sheets of noise in there, that kind of bike noise. It cool sounds, cool sounds. Once it builds up into that, it's nice. Oh yeah, I also got to mention that it has a really obvious, like very traditional
Rhythm.
kind
Yeah,
of rhythm.
yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, the rhythm is an
and
interesting, which I mean,
and
that's something we
I
kind of
can
haven't talked about much in Autechre songs. Is earlier on the rhythms tend to be less,
they
not too
tend to be
exciting.
more like standard techno stuff.
Yeah,
There's some interesting stuff going on, but it's not as
yeah,
well. Yeah, we'll get into it later.
definitely on this one. I
Yeah.
There is something I do have a confession, a little bit of a
Oh,
confession.
huh.
I think that the outro of the song, where it just becomes the strings, but they're like extra shitty. They're like extra shitty strings. I think that part of the song is like really good. I actually really like the outro of the song.
Really?
There's
Oh
something
my God.
about like the either the melody that the strings are playing or like the quality of them. It gets me, but it's like
Uh,
only for like 15 seconds, and then the
yeah.
song fucking
Like the
ends, and it's like, well,
little.
thank you for giving me a tiny bit of hope, and then ending. Um, but that
Yeah.
one little bit at the end, I don't know what it is. Something about it. It's like it is like hauntological. And it is like a sort of
Interesting.
almost caretakery vibe to it, where it's like haunted, shitty MIDI strings. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I will admit I do get a little bit of that vibe from the MIDI strings. I don't hate them that much. That if yeah, the outro is cool.
yeah.
If
Um,
yeah, I I said in my notes it was memorial-esque. If that makes
Memorial
any
esque.
sense. Yeah, that's the vibe it gave me.
All right.
But yeah,
Sure.
yeah, that's Silverside.
Yeah. All right.
A very
So
mixed feeling song for me.
complete complete opposite of Silverside being like super like an attempt at a really dark track. We have Slip, which is
Yes.
I think unarguably I mean like you can argue anything because subjectivity rules overall but I think generally most people will agree not that too controversial opinion that Slip is one of Autechre's cheeriest songs if not their
Yeah.
cheeriest
Yeah. Yeah.
um
Yeah. Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
most directly cheery because I think
Uh-huh.
Autechre has sort of cheery songs but they're often bittersweet as hell. This song
Uh-huh.
is just fucking like
It's just
straight saccharin, sugar rush, corn syrup directly into my body, outpouring
yes.
of it, and it's
Yes.
incredibly good. I don't know how Autechre do it, but it's incredibly good. Amity says, because Amity doesn't want to talk, even though she does have things to say. Amity says that it's like a chocolate song.
Right.
It's beyond
It,
chocolate. It's just like it's like pure sugar. But it's
it,
like in a good way. I
yeah.
don't like pure sugar, but it is like pure sugar in like a good way.
Like
Um,
like something about the way they pull it off just really makes it hit, and it makes you really feel the sugar.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Um, there
like
is an
in a
analogy I can make, but I don't know if I want to make that yet. But I
uh,
think um the track I think it
yeah,
also has to
like
do with its placement in the track list. It I don't want to spoil it that much, but I think its placement as in the track list enhances it. I
uh,
think that
yeah, I see that.
the it's just all the sounds here are so cool. The way that it has that
Yeah,
little staticky bit that comes off
yeah,
the
it like
percussion. Um, the
hmm
way that one main synth sounds like another song that we'll get to later on. Um, like I am pretty sure it's the same sound. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it is. Um, uh, just the way it's happy. The melodies on this track are so cheerful and so
uh-huh.
beautiful in such a good way too. It could have easily been made really cheesy and poopy. But I love it. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, you have that super bright happy synth just skipping all over the place with big interval jumps, super energetic and playful. You got that like just there are all these textures in the percussion that are all like just different processed noise, like different big crushed squiggly
Yeah,
things, little sprays of noise, but just the the way they're textured is just so happy and
yeah,
like so not it gives me birthday vibes like that's the
yeah, sure. Yes,
yeah.
I agree. It's like a birth.
Yeah, it's like a birthday. um yeah, there's like one particular off level where you're going around it in like a moat of water and a little swan boat with this really happy song playing in the background. I compared it to that one scene last time, but I'm gonna do it now too because if you've played that game, then it's that vibe right there. Um,
Yeah, a little bit.
I
It's a little bit different, but
It's a little bit different, but yeah,
yeah,
I'm going
I
that
think
way.
generally the kind of that sort of vibe is not too far off. Uh,
Yeah,
I think that the percussion on this track, the rhythmically, it is significantly better. The way that the drums kind of skip around between the two channels, making
Uh,
full use of the stereo range or whatever is
oh, that's a good
fantastic. I love it.
observation. Yeah, yeah,
Um, I think it sounds rad as fuck.
yeah.
And
It's
the
super
staticky,
rad.
it's staticky sounds, which I love.
It's
Everything,
like it's not like aggressive staticky sounds. It's the friendliest staticky sounds I've ever heard.
yeah,
So good. Uh,
yeah,
yeah, and then uh, there are some elements that do add a little bit of ambiguity. Like there's this one uh, background synth that it doesn't really fully sign on to the happiness all the way, but it kind of has a little bit of it, but there's a little bit of ambiguity and it has just adds just a little bit of weight and shade to it.
yeah. I get you.
Yeah, and then there's like a little bit of an acid bassy kind of noise that comes in subtly later that it just adds a little bit of bite and edge to the song that's nice.
Yeah,
Um, but overall it's just overwhelmingly joyful and bright, colorful,
yeah, uh,
cheerful, yay, happy.
yeah.
And
I
but
love it.
yeah, yeah, in a
Uh,
really good way.
you have anything else to say?
Um, I want to, yeah, I want to mention the ambient outro of this song
Oh yeah,
real quick because uh, you the outro first is transitioned into with some of those phased friendly noise sounds that are a little bit birdy this time, which is kind of nice. That's kind of cool. And then it's just like, this heavily delayed kind of buzzy version of that main melody as it has morphed through the track. And there's this really small little splash of just a little bit of electrical malfunction staticky kind of texture just right at the
yeah,
end. That
yeah. I love
it's
it.
really cool. Yeah, it just
Yeah,
another little bit of an extra bite just to really round out the fullness of the slip experience.
yeah. Um, on the
Yeah.
on the
What?
polar opposite side of
Oh
Slip,
God.
we have Glitch, which, according to according to Rate Your Music, is like the worst song on the album because Rate Your Music has no taste. Yeah, it's tied
Um,
with another track which is like one of the best tracks on the album. With as the lowest. In my opinion, this I love the first four tracks on this album, but this is the track where I feel like Amber becomes Amber. It's kind of like the sort
Interesting.
of the shift that's made. I think that this track, on all fronts, is
Uh,
just one of the best uh, displays of Autechre just being fucking awesome. The weird, I mean, it's a
yes.
glitchy texture that opens up the track, and that
Yes.
kind of
It's
just
like
like exists for a little bit, and the way,
let me. I want to talk about this for a second. This is really cool. This is a really cool texture. Yeah, it's like this kind of glitched a little bit crushed metallic thing. Um, that they what they do with it that I think is so cool is they only let little bits of it through at a time to make kind of a rhythm and almost a melody even,
yep,
but then they just have all this delay from each hit ringing out with that fucked up metallic corrupted bit crushed sound to it that's just ugh
yeah,
it just creates this texture curtain that's just really cool.
yeah, it's
and then
awesome.
you and then you a little subtle thing that I really like as that intro texture builds up is that it has this very rattly kind of reverb layer with
Mhm,
like a lot of slap back to it
mhm.
that it Oh, just so tasty.
Yeah, it's yummy.
Sound design. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the drums come in, and it's like at
Yes.
first it's like, okay, these are just like normal techno drums. And then you start to hear the like that like bassy like hit sound that it makes.
Yep.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure if you understand what I'm talking about. This it's a really subtle sound, but it's like it adds so much character to it, and it sounds so fucking good. Especially in combination with that filtered glitch sound that comes in
Yeah.
at the start.
Filtered glitch sound.
Um,
Amity, what the fuck is that emote? Jesus Christ.
and then of course it comes my one of my favorite aspects of the entire album is the synth here. The
Oh,
synth melody here. I think the synth is one of the most devastating things in this early part of Autechre's discography. Um,
oh,
it
interesting.
completely retextualizes everything that's been like super bouncy and like fun as and layers on top of it this just like shroud of darkness and like oppressive loneliness. And I
Yes.
think it's I don't understand why people like this track. I fucking don't. There's lots
Yeah,
of people that are like glitch is garbage. It's a useless
I've seen
song.
people hating on this track
And I
too.
think
Yeah.
those people are poopy heads and they're wrong. I don't know if Amity is one of those people. I can't remember. But I think this
We love
song
you, Amity, if you are. It's
I
okay.
think that the it's whatever. Frick you. Get out of here. The the like the like the
Yeah.
the melody that this synth plays. It's so subtle. It's like two or three
Yeah.
notes,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it seamlessly morphs between them, and it's like super mournful and like sad.
Uh Interesting. I can't really say I perceive the track in the same way, but I think that's based in that you like it so much. And I will say that I totally view I think the synths that are on this track, even though there aren't as much of them as are on some other songs, they're really dark.
I'm gonna get banned. I have an opinion. I don't know if I
Oh
want to
no.
say my opinion because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna
You
get banned if I say it.
you can say it. You can say it.
Um, it's like Aphex Twins Barb, except the synth is better, and
Oh,
there's also percussion there, and it's like I feel the full deposit of emotion that I'm supposed to be feeling. Um, I think
oh, that
I think it's that sort of quality, kind of like melancholic,
we just
nostalgic sort
let,
of.
let me just say what Amity posted here. We just lost all 12 of our subscribers for that one.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, but
Yeah, get used to me uh thinking that Apex and BOC are not as good as people think they are. Um, but whatever. I think this song is astonishingly and melancholic. Um,
yeah,
and I think
yeah,
it's
it
underrated as fuck.
I do think it's underrated as fuck. I don't think I really have the exact same emotional connection to it as you do. You know, I'm not totally obliterated by it, although I do think it is really dark in a way that we haven't seen on the album so far. I would say I would say it's menacing. That's how I personally
I
view
also
it.
think it's
Yeah, yeah.
I think it is menacing. Um,
Yeah, I heard the menace more than I personally heard the sadness on that one, but yeah, Amity in the chat. God.
um,
We'll talk about that song. But yeah. For me, most of what I remember about the song, for me, most of what sticks out is just like the textural work and the percussion, because like, you got that deep kick drum sound with some kind of certain something to it. You got this sprinkly kind of hi-hat that's like a water spray sound almost. That's probably doesn't make sense to
No,
anyone.
no, I think I get you.
Yeah, yeah. I'm recycling a description that I used last time here, but you got kind of like that dumpster kick noise in there,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that
yeah. It's a
deep
dumpster kick.
metallic
No, that
sound.
that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like someone's kicking a dumpster in there, and it's the
Yes.
greatest thing. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think probably like this is a total nerd thing here. This is like my total nerd thing that I want to point out for this track. Um, like the thing that they have for the snare, it's like this very radly
Hmm.
texture that has a lot of slap back to it. And I really like how later in the track there's this one percussion element it's doing pentuplets. There's 5 notes. It's kind of a like a skittery pattern that's doing pentuplets,
Okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking
and
about.
it's
I know what you're talking.
based. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
and
Yeah,
I,
that
I
that is a
really
very nerdy thing.
yeah, and the thing that I really like about it is how that skittery pentuplet pattern meshes with that snare with all that rattly snap or slapback texture on it. It's like kind of a meshing of rhythm into texture, um, which is something that Autechre do a whole lot, especially later on. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I think this is like one of their very earliest examples of them experimenting with that kind of effect, and it's really cool.
Interesting.
Yeah,
All right. Yeah. So that
yeah,
brings us to Piezo or Piezo or however you fucking pronounce it. I pronounce it Piezo. Autechre pronunciation is gonna get fun.
yeah. Gonna
And
get real fun.
spicy depending on the album. When we get to a
Yeah.
specific track that I know it's gonna be hell. um, but
Yeah.
I this song feels like a continuation of Glitch, but in it feels like Glitch Part 2 in a way. Not in that they share similar sounds, but they kind of have a similar structure. Um, or they share a very similar emotional space to me.
Yeah.
I think the fucking percussion immediately strikes you as it like fucking like rolls across the stereo, whatever the fuck
Yeah.
is.
It's
Um,
big ass giant fucking bouncy metallic thing just going at you from the start.
yeah.
It's just
It
huge.
it's an awesome sound with the snare. The snare sounds really shitty in a good way, if that makes any sense. The snare just kind of like muted and like kind of sort of not real.
like like I don't even know what you're calling the snare. This is how fucked up this song is. Like the before we even get to anything else about the song, the
Yeah,
percussion
yeah.
is so fucked.
I guess the real snare is like the electricity, the like electric static stab. Um
Yeah,
and not what I'm talking about, but like it's a also a snare in my head canon. In my head canon for this album.
yeah. I don't even know what the fuck to call it. There's multiple things that you could call a snare validly, probably, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's just the thing I really like about the percussion the most, like it's got all those cut up noise elements, and it's got some kind of slip-esque weird squiggly sounds to it. Um, but there's this one sound that's just like phased noise with this super fucked up, unreal texture to it,
Hmm. Yeah, I know
and
what you're talking about.
yeah, like it's just such a good sound. It's like fucked up bluish TV static that didn't even come from this reality.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, and the percussion is just immediately building up with all these insane elements like that. It just one of the most off the wall moments of the album, one of the most energetic,
yeah,
and
it's my favorite percussion moment aside from uh, a specific, very specific thing that happens in another track. But I
either my
what
favorite percussion moment or one of my favorites.
yeah what steals the show for me for this track is the way that the synth, the haze.
Yeah,
I
this
I
is
I call it the haze TM. Um,
the
that
haze.
just like descends upon the track. You have this like super bounce, almost fun. If
Yeah,
Autechre decided to put this after like Slip or put this as it's like decided to change it into something else, I think it could totally pass as a really fun song.
yeah, it
But
could
I
totally be
think
fun.
that the way that Autechre decides that on top of this bouncy, happy, fun, energetic, whatever, they put this literally like the saddest fucking synth that they could find in 1994 on top of it. Um
Uh,
it's it creates this just absolutely fucking devastating effect in my opinion.
yeah, like
And it makes it the saddest part of the album in my opinion, kind of like the peak of that sort of lonely feeling that I get from it.
yeah. Let's break this down a little bit because, like, with the thing that's built up here is like layers of synths, and each one is like incredibly fucking doom in its own way. Like, at first you got this kind of wailing pitch bent synth that's like it's it's just wailing and crying out and just like you just this such affecting and powerful way. And then you got that other synth coming in from the other side that's more drony, and it has just like that beautiful melody that just comes in so slowly, creeping into the track so dramatically. Oh, it's just so good.
Yeah, it's every single time that fucking synth comes in, I'm like,
Uh-huh.
I'm always like, I'm ready for it, but I'm never actually ready for it. And
Yeah,
it gets me.
yeah, one of the most powerful moments on the album. Yeah, and then you got the two different absolute doom synths going on top of each other with all this fucking crazy clicks, clacks, rubber bands, marble noises, and the percussion
Yeah,
crazy shit.
and the percussion is still building. Like there's one part where it adds in like the literal just like static as percussion. I know that I say static a
Yeah,
lot, but I think this album does use a lot of like staticky percussion.
yeah, that's a big
Um,
part of the sound palette of this album, actually.
yeah,
Um,
and I think it works a lot.
yeah, yeah, um, yeah, and then there's like this one point where it's just like this big pool of liquefied static with that unworldly texture to it that's just
Hmm.
so good. Yeah, and then do you want to talk about what this track turns into in its
Yeah,
later later days?
yeah. The way that the track unfolds is that it kind of starts with the percussion, and then it adds in the synths, and then the percussion fucking dies.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
you kind of have this like three-part track, where you have like the percussion part, and then the kind of combined part, and then just the fucking synths just like
yeah,
floating there. And it's like it's usually this is where Autechre would kind of end but they decide to
Oh,
linger on these synths like
yes.
3 fucking minutes and have like these weird floopy sounds. I can only describe them as floopy.
Loopy sound.
That
What?
that 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 go that cut through and
Loopy sounds.
yeah, it's really electric, which makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense for the track title being piezo,
Yeah, like
which is a type of electricity. Um,
there's like this almost vocal kind of bit crush. Like it's one of the synth layers. There's a
yeah,
third
yeah,
one
yeah, yeah. I know
that,
what you're
that
talking
it
about.
got added in.
Yeah,
It's like kind of sparkly and very delayed, and just it adds a lot in its own way to the whole atmosphere of it.
yeah, it's awesome. I
Yeah,
fucking love
and
it. I love this song. One of
yeah,
one of the best early Autechre songs.
yeah,
And
just,
also I will we'll talk a lot about Autechre and eras, or at least I will. The early era, the mid era, and then new Techer.
yeah,
um, so just know that's a thing that I'm going to be referring to.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. You're gonna be referring to that quite a bit. Yes,
yeah,
there are very very distinct differences.
as far as old Techer goes, the early area, this is it's really unexpected,
Yeah, just
but it's fucking amazing.
with all those ambient sounds just riding out for like multiple full minutes at the end of the song with
Yeah,
just like rustling ambience, and it's just so good. It's such a powerful atmosphere. It's
yeah,
so dark and beautiful at the same time.
yeah. That's about all I have to say.
Yep, that's
Um,
Piezo.
so that brings us to 9,
Nice. Yes.
which I honestly have like basically nothing to say. um, I've seen
For
people
nine.
say that it feels like an old take on an Oversteps track, which I know
Yeah.
is far in the future. I disagree. I listened for it. I had previously listened to Oversteps a few days prior, and I was like, I do not hear it. I just don't. I think it's a perfectly acceptable bit of synth synth noodling. That's what it sounds like to me. And it's not really
Yeah.
bad. It's not bad, but it's also not good or astonishing in any sort of way.
It
To me,
Yeah, like okay, this is a very interlude kind of track, really.
yeah, it's the intro.
Um, it's the interlude, yeah. No, I do think see why people say it's like an oversteps track because it's just like it doesn't have a lot of percussion or other elements. It's just like one little bloopy kind of sparkly synth. You know, It I like the melody that it does. It feels kind of adventurous and bright and playful, but it's also a little bit dark and haunting underneath there. I said the haunting word.
Gosh darn it!
Damn it. Damn it. It's cool how it layers on top of itself using delay, and it's cool how there's no Amity. It's too late. I already used it. I already used the word. But yeah, it like there's a little bit of evolution there. It layers on top of itself, and there's some cool little delay thing. Like there's some cool delay stuff going on. Maybe a couple other synths I can't really tell. They're really subtle if they're there. That God, I do I want to texture note about this? I'm just
No,
gonna texture. Oh God.
whatever.
This is the only thing I have to say about the song. Otherwise, towards the end, there's kind of a crescendo where there's like this lo-fi bit crushed, crunchy corrupted kind of noise that has this almost vocal tone to it.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's actual vocals. It's
I
just like a fucked up synth.
It might be. I don't know. I can't tell. I don't really like that sound very much.
Yeah, that's fair. It's there. It's a thing that exists. Um, there's also like a couple really tiny, very small clicking sounds with a lot of reverb on them that I think are nice at some point, and it ends with like a bunch of very small bassy pops, just kind of crackling off into the distance with delay. That I think it's a little bit of cool textural play. Um, but yeah, that's about 9.
Yeah.
Little
Yeah.
neat little interlude. That's
And then of
it
course
exists.
on the exact opposite spectrum of 9, we have Further, the longest track on the album,
Yes.
the 10-minute track. I think this
Oh
track
God.
is fucking. The drums on this track are mint. They're the way that the track it feels very cold and like
Right.
glacial to me.
Yeah.
The kind
Yeah.
of lip loops at the start feel kind of like very icy and like cold. Which of
Yeah.
course
Like.
I am partial to. I am a fan of cold
Uh-huh.
sounds and then cold atmospheres. Um, and
Yeah.
I think
And like
the way that
this.
the percussion feels when it comes in, the percussion
Mhm.
feels like muted, and it like feels like part of the coldness.
Yeah. It's like very lo-fi and
Mhm.
grainy and muted.
Yeah,
Like a but very mechanical too.
you
Also that.
can't use the M word.
Oh no, another word I can't use. Damn it.
There's a whole list of words you can't use.
Damn it. Wow. I'm really gonna have to start watching out for that. But yeah, no, like it, like yeah, it's just got a very cold atmosphere. Everything is like very bathed in this very thick, hazy reverb.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
it's so good. Um, the way
yeah,
this and it kind of exists within this like one chord. Of course,
yeah,
there's
yeah,
like a
yeah.
melody within it. It kind of
It, it
exists with this one chord.
it feels like it's really building tension up on that one chord as the synths
Mhm.
come in. And there's a lot of tension that really gets ramped up in it. It, it it's really a great atmosphere. It's really
Yeah,
eerie.
mhm.
Very cold, like you were saying, very dark. Yeah.
And then of course after we get that one chord, kind of like almost like a verse, I guess. The song
Yeah.
shifts into
Yes.
this other chord and this other
Yes.
melody.
And
And it introduces these other sounds that are just like weird fucking phasing sounds.
uh-huh.
All within itself. Um,
Uh,
and it's fucking awesome.
yeah.
I
Like
think
you
this
you.
song is sick as hell.
Yeah. I really love that second section it goes into with that different melody and that weird drippy wood block sound. Like
Yeah.
it's just really dark and eerie and menacing, and it just really is powerful to me. And the bass between that and like kind of a more lighter section, and just every time it goes into that second part, it's just so
Mhm.
dark and powerful to me.
Yeah. And of course, my favorite part of the song though is this one weird fucking I don't know
Uh-huh.
how to describe it. Almost, I don't want to describe it as a laser sound because it isn't a
Uh-huh.
laser sound. Um, but this one sound that comes in towards the
Uh-huh.
end that basically becomes the outro to this, which I think is the best part of the song.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Oh,
it has this weird fucking like this weird sort of vibe to it.
Uh-huh.
And it's fucking weird. I think it kind of the percussion and stuff kind of just fucking dies, and it's just kind of left with like similar to Piezo. I mean, it's kind of
Mm.
synth that kind of rise up from the ground or whatever.
Yeah, like
Um,
I like that synth that you're talking about. It appears a little bit earlier in the song too, but it's like I view it as being one of those more bright synths, but it's really bittersweet. It has a lot of like melancholic energy to it, but it's very beautiful too. Um,
no, I agree with that, and
yeah, yeah,
it takes the song out of being as is a kind of opposite of Piezo. It takes the song out of being this like completely dark and like desolate, hopeless sort of vibe, and makes it a little bit brighter.
yeah, yeah.
And
I
kind of
agree.
takes the song to like a lighter kind of plane of existence.
Yeah, totally. And like especially towards the end when it's just by itself, which is just beautiful. And like also, I don't know if this was the laser thing that you were talking about or not, but like during the outro, there's a point where it's just that one synth and like uh, just like this noise wash that's been going through the song
Yes.
that just it just has this crazy atmosphere to me. Is this the one? Is this the part that I thought was like? Hold on.
I
On my
also I
computer.
think it's almost like noise stab. I
Yeah.
think it's awesome.
There was this one noise wash. It might have been on this song. I think it was. I don't know if it was for sure, but it gave me a bit of soundtracks for the blind impression, just barely in the
No,
atmosphere.
I actually get I feel that too.
Yeah, yeah,
And with the entire outro of this track, feel
yeah. It's
kind
wild.
of SFTB. Yeah.
It's so otherworldly. It's so good. Yeah. Yeah.
Is
Just
there
so
anything
great.
else? Do you have any further comments?
Further, further comments. I'll just say like this song is an absolute monolith. It's really long. It just the sound of it is just huge.
Yeah. And that brings us to uh Yulquen, which Yulquen, my baby, my beautiful, beautiful baby. Um, I have the hot and spicy take of believing that Yulquen is one of the best Autechre songs of all time. Um,
Oh,
not just of early period, but of all time. I think that this song is fucking magical. I don't know what Autechre did. They fucking hacked. They hacked. There's no way this song is from 1990. What the fuck do you mean this song is from the same year that the Downward Spiral came out? Are you kidding me? I refuse to believe. I think Autechre are time travelers. They made this song in 2015, 2016, one of those fucking years, 2018, whatever, in that year era of Autechre's existence, maybe even in the future, because who fucking knows where they're going. And then they recorded it, and then they went back in time and put it on this fucking album. Um, this
oh my
album,
God.
it's such a simple concept song. It's like Autechre said, "Hey, what if we just had a song that just is just a bunch of delay for like 6 minutes?" And the other member Autechre is like, "Oh, that sounds awesome. Let's do it." And then they proceeded to do it. Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah. That's a good description. Yeah, I
the
like where we're starting.
sounds that are made on this fucking song drive me insane in a good way. Remember what we were talking about? How the song, how a lot of this album has static and kind of electrical sort of vibe to it.
Yeah.
This song is in particular the kind of the most of that
Yeah,
that sort
yeah.
of vibe, I think.
Like this is where you really get like the most pure look at that kind of atmosphere. Because like
Yeah,
like you have the main synth melody, and they're playing that melody.
and it is just like one melody that just kind of like loops throughout the entire track.
Yeah,
But
it's literally just
Autechre
like one
basically
melody.
takes different points in the melody and then decides this specific point is what we're going to fucking echo into infinity.
Yeah.
And it's also going to be like super electrified, but like not in like a super noisy way. It feels like really subtle. The entire track is kind of built around subtlety. It's
Yeah.
a quiet
It's so
track.
fucking subtle. It's incredibly subtle and quiet.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um yeah, like and even before like it gets super um noticeable with the delay effects, even like you got this electrical buzzing that kind of morphs out of the synths, and you got the this is some of my favorite sound design on the whole album. This is just
no,
so good. Like,
it's my favorite. um,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I think that's valid. Yeah, I might even agree.
I think it's actually my favorite sound design of the entire first 5 albums. To be real with you,
Interesting.
not
I'm not
necessarily my
sure.
favorite song, but as far as sound design goes, I think this shit is on par with their like with the period that I most associate with Autechre, being the gods of sound design. This is like the first track in their discography that feels like holy shit. This is on another level.
Yeah.
I also want to give credit to the actual melody itself.
Uh-huh.
Because I don't think it would work as well if the melody weren't just so like mysterious and like dark, but like not
Yeah,
in like a completely uninviting way. It's more like
it's
it's
sort
just
of
kind of
it's very ambiguous to me, I
yeah.
think.
I think it's dark, but it's like not like in a like pitch black sort of dark way. It's just like faintly dark, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah. It just has a little bit of a little bit of a shade to it. Yeah, and that yeah, you got that melody that has it's a little bit playful, a little bit carefree, but also a little bit dark, a little bit like yearning almost, I would say.
Mhm.
Um yeah, and it just it, you got the such subtle just atmospheres and reverbs, kind of electrical and industrial feeling, but very quiet, just splashed across the background so
Yes.
slowly and
Oh my
subtly.
god. There's
Just
these fucking like tiny bleep bloop
and
sounds in the
the
middle of it, and it's
yeah,
just like, what the fuck, Artiker? What are you
they're
doing?
so they're just so tiny and small and subtle that just tiny computer noises just
Yeah,
it
but
not
they're fucking incredible. They're
they're
just
fucking
fucking
incredible just for they just hit your ears so good. uh
yeah. I'm in constantly just in awe at this track. Every single time I listen, it's better. I remember being like, okay, I really love this song. I think it's underrated, and at this point, I'm just like, this fucking song is just straight up one of Autechre's best songs ever.
yeah.
Um, I
And I'm
I
not
think
sure if
that
I would go quite that far, but I can respect that take.
thanks. I'm glad that I can be respected. I think that this song would fit on. I'm gonna say that this song would fit on LSEC in my opinion.
Well,
Which I don't want to get too far
spicy.
ahead. But I think very electrical vibe to it, and I think it would fit on there like basically fucking perfectly. If you made it like 3 times as long. uh, but I'm fucking stunned by this track. The
Yeah.
fucking
Like
Love.
it's so good. Like especially, I'm gonna finally get to that point. Like later in the song where like different points in the melody just get caught in the delay,
Yes.
and
Oh my fucking.
it's fucking unbelievable. I trip the fuck out.
I
I go
can't
to another
stand it. It's
dimension.
too fucking good. I like
Yeah,
just yeah, these just like hanging like there is a point in the track where it just becomes like this delay cloud where like tracks are
yeah,
like trapped. It's like electrons and protons like bouncing back and forth in this fucking electricity cloud, and
yeah,
then just things get fucking sent off into it, and it's like, bruh.
yeah. And you got all those different noises and those little tiny, friendly, heartwarming laser sounds. Fucking weird description there.
Yes, laser gua sounds,
Laser gua sounds. Hell yeah.
raven
Yes,
sound.
yes.
Um,
It's so good. Uh,
I fucking adore this track. I think people need to stop being, what? Rate your fucking music. I'm gonna have a word with you. You gave this song a 3.7. Fuck you. It deserves a 4.7 or higher. Get out of here.
yeah, yeah. Then of course there's like a little very tiny little snappy click noise that delays off and gets stuck in the loop too, and
Yeah.
that's in the loop, and it's so cool. Uh, just the absolute utter control over the sound design in this song is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's just I'm just fucking
Just
I
with master class of
yeah,
subtlety.
yeah. I agree. Subtlety that would be lost later on. I all right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna explode if I think about the song much longer.
Okay.
Do you want to move on to next track?
Yes. Let's move on.
All right, nil. In my opinion, here's my basic take about this track.
Oh,
Um,
wait, yeah, we're getting to this topic
yeah,
here.
we're talking about this. I guess we can talk about this in wrap up section, but I think that this should be the closing track of the album, because it sounds like a closer to me. I think that it strikes that chord that a closer track has, where it feels really epic and grandiose, especially compared to the rest of the album, especially in contrast to Yulquen before it. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it should be the closer. Um,
Well, have more sympathy for that take than I used to.
yes, based,
I,
based.
I think there is a reason why we have the disagreement we do, and we'll get into that. But
Yeah. um, but I think this track fucking rocks. It
it does fucking rock. It fucking rocks. Hell
the
yes.
percussion
Yes.
on this track is amazing. The percussion is just amazing. The way it just echoes and like,
It has really heavy, almost incunabula-esque reverb that it's just bathed in.
yeah, the way the melody is really great. The bass line is
Yeah.
cool, and then when you get into
Let
that,
wait. Let's talk about the. There's an evocative synth here, just right in the intro. The very first synth that very first melody that you hear is just whatever fucking filter they put on it is so fucked up. It has
the
like
bass
this,
line, or are you talking about? Yeah, I think you're talking about the bass line.
maybe the bass line, I don't know. It's like, but it has this watery kind of chorusy feel to it, and it also feels like it's rotating for some reason to me. It has like some kind of whirring machine feel just very subtly. If it's like a, I described it as a rotating water pipe moving to various positions type synth. Uh,
Okay? Are you talking about the synth that goes and like that just like lingers by itself?
No, not that one.
Okay,
The
all right.
one
No,
before
okay,
that
yeah.
with the
You're talking about the
percussion.
bass line. You're talking about the bass line.
I'm
Yeah,
talking
okay.
about the bass line, I guess. Yeah. Uh, I think that's a really fucking cool synth sound and really unique on the album. There's nothing else that sounds quite like this one
I
to me.
don't like it.
You don't like it.
I mean, I like it. I
Oh
don't like
no.
it as much as you do. I mean, it's
Yeah.
fine. I don't know. I think
That's
it's
like my
not.
low ride synth of the album.
Yeah, I of course it's the second to last fucking track too. Uh,
True.
I I think it's like a fine baseline, but what really steals the show for me is when it just cuts
Yeah,
out
like it,
and it gives you
let's
that the synth
yeah,
playing that one fucking melody.
we can agree on this one. This we can agree that this synth is better than the other
This
one.
synth is fucking. I don't know what they did to it. It's doing something.
It
It sounds almost like an organ. Um,
it's sort of organ like, yeah.
but it's like kind of like it's like a water organ. Like it's being like liquid. Like its keys are like the liquid that like surrounds it or something like that. I don't know how to
Yeah,
describe it.
it has
It
like all these different layers to it and like this weird wobbling super
yeah
fast vibrato to it. But it's just such a good sound. It's so shimmery and
yeah.
aquatic
And
almost
the melody, of course, is fantastic, and especially when the melody fucking comes back in.
with the
Um,
drums and everything. And
yeah, for the
yeah,
for the
that
main part of the track.
such a fucking good melody. So bittersweet and has just such this weight to it. So beautiful and sad.
Yeah,
And it's just so good. And yeah, it comes back in with all the other elements, and it's really fucking based. And then there's another Doom synth that it doesn't have its own little break that like that last one we were talking about did, but it's just like this re- more high pitched kind of synth that just kind of delays and sparkles into the background, and it just plays this melody that's just like it's what really sticks out as like the nil melody, in my mind
yeah,
when I think about this
yeah.
song.
I get ya.
Yeah, it just has like a little bit of tension and dissonance in it that creates this sad melancholic feeling.
Mhm. Yeah,
And that
I think this song continues the sad and melancholic vibes of the album.
yeah, that we have been getting a lot of these types of vibes. I will definitely agree with you on that more. But it also has a really bright kind of texture
Mhm.
to it, which is just it's so fucked up. It's such an impossible emotion.
Yeah, um, I I think this track is fantastic, but especially when you get like past the halfway point.
Uh-huh.
Um, and it adds in that kind of like counter melody or that harmony with the synth that's like playing like the
Like
two melodies at the same time, and it's like
yeah.
so
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
good.
Uh-huh. And then like there's like even later on there's another that there's like this fucking descending bass line that comes in about halfway through
Mhm.
that adds this just this emotion that and there's like these very bright and almost kind of string-like feeling drony synths that
Yep,
have a little bit of a dissonance to them.
yep.
That's
Those fucking sounds fuck me
those
up. Those are good synths, Autechre. Stop
those
using the string sounds in Silverside and instead.
yeah,
Which they
they
do.
blow the string sounds on Silverside out of the fucking water. Just
Yeah, it's
these are so
I
much
and it's
better.
one of my favorite textures album. And then on top of that, you have my favorite percussive moment. where Autechre pull out like fucking like gunshots
It's
as a
either
percussive element.
it's gunshots or some kind of really harsh machine noise or some kind of shit.
I think it's gunshot. I mean, it's obviously probably not gunshots, but it sounds like it.
It
Um,
does. It does.
and they use that as the percussion, and it's so fucking good. It's so fucking good. Um,
Yes.
the kind of combination of all those sounds as it goes into the outro, where everything builds on top of everything.
Yes.
It's probably the most dynamic track on the entire album. In that
It is really dynamic.
while
Yeah.
most tracks kind of stay in one position or have like a solid like part section structure, everything just kind of flows together really naturally on this track, which I really love.
Yeah. And it's really dynamic with the breaks where it's just like that one synth or just, whatever other sound, it breaks down into quieter parts and builds
Yeah,
back up very well. Yeah, and then the outro, you have that one beautiful string sound just crying out with that little bit
mhm.
of slight dissonance that it has. And it's
Yeah,
just unbelievable. It's so beautiful and
which
so good.
in my opinion would make a fantastic ending to the album.
uh, I, I don't disagree with that it would make. I don't disagree that it would make a good closer. I'm just gonna say that I don't disagree that it would be a good closer.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
I
I
have I think my real difference in opinion lies with the next song that we'll get to, but
Do you want to talk about the next song?
well, I just want to say real quick that I think Nil is really based and it's really grown on me quite a bit in my
Yeah,
journey with this album.
yeah, I love this song.
It's one
I
of my favorites now. It's
Yeah, awesome, good
incredible.
agreements. Finally, um, I guess
Yeah.
that brings us to the actual closer of the album,
Oh,
which
yeah, that
I have affectionately, jokingly labeled. Uh, I'm gonna pronounce it Teartear. You can pronounce it Teartear, wherever the fuck you want to pronounce it.
Tear
I've labeled
Tear.
it Teartear Japanese bonus track. um,
God damn it.
because I listen, I have no problems with the actual song itself. Really, I really don't have that many problems with the song. I just think Nil is too good. She feels too much of a closer to not be the closer. You know what I mean? I feel like they should have picked one and made that the closer, and not have both Nil and Teartear together. Because I think
Oh,
either one as the closer could, but I prefer Nil. Not by like a
oh, oh.
gigantic margin or anything. But I do prefer Nil. I think Nil is better. Um, I think that this song has some
I
really cool synth sounds. And
I have one insight about the song that I think might explain a lot of our differences about it.
oh no,
I
Raven
I
Magic. It sounds like
oh
Raven
god.
Magic.
No. It's worse than that. It's worse than that. I'm sorry.
Oh god, what can be worse than that?
I I view this kind of that this is going to be painful. I'm sorry. I view this as being kind of like the metal song of Amber.
Oh my god. No! No, wait! Hold on! Hold the fuck on! No, we're same
Oh no.
same brain cell. I was literally thinking before this podcast, I was like, I'm thinking about the melody of Tear Tear, and I was like, this would make a fucking great stoner rock or metal song. I am not fucking
Oh no. Oh, you're right.
I like
Right.
I don't like metal generally. But no, like I think it does have that sort of quality, except where I think a
Yeah.
lot of metal comes off as incredibly edgy and unsuccessful. I think that this song is like appropriately dark. I think the
Yeah,
darkness
yeah,
in the song feels really justified and like palpable and like real. And I
yeah.
think that
Hey, cool. I'll take that.
I think the percussion sounds like fucking tearing something. And
Yeah,
it sounds awesome. It sounds awesome. I think the percussion is fantastic on this song.
yeah, like the percussion is so good. Like, like it's this really mid-pace, just chugging along, super heavy thing that's just like it's like carrying along a bunch of mechanical parts and like rustling leaves inside it and
Yeah,
shit
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. It
There's like
does have
this,
a very leave rustly sound to it. Yeah, that's how
yeah,
I would describe it. Um,
yeah. It's really textured. There's even like a little spinny sound in there, I think. It's
yeah,
really good.
my the song does have a vocal sample,
Oh no, yeah. Yeah.
which obviously I don't like. But I do want to say that the rustling leaf sounds almost kind of like looking forward to Chiastic even. Um,
Yeah,
which
I
we'll
would
get
agree with
to.
that.
I think it sounds like the autumnal version of Chiastic. Um, and
That's a really good description.
I think that my
Yeah.
favorite part of the song, of course, is when the fucking song slows down and goes like halftime. The
Yeah.
tempo slows down and it goes halftime and then just kind of blows up.
Yeah.
I think that part's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, like that it breaks down to just a hi-hat, uh then that just taps out the rhythm and slowly slows down for a bit, and then you got the main synth building back up with its own rhythmic relationship, and then everything comes back in with like a super dramatic halftime feel. And yeah, that's
Yeah,
obviously like the big part of the song that's easy to latch on to, and
yeah,
my
but
favorite part too, if
the
I'm
the
being real.
the thing for me is that like kind of after that point, I think the track just kind of exists. Um, it doesn't
Yeah.
do anything too spectacular in my opinion. I mean, of course, I think the synths and the textures and everything is cool, but like, I don't know. I wish it did more. Especially following a track like Nil, which I think is my big problem with it. Because otherwise, I do think it's a cool song. But yeah,
You just don't want it to be after Neil.
yeah, basically,
Yeah.
I don't think I'd want this after Yulquen either, though. To be honest with you,
It could
um,
please say it can be somewhere on the album.
maybe
Fuck.
we'll have to have a we could talk about track list after this because I do have like kind of an idea of that, but um yeah, I think this track is pretty cool. I know that I've been kind of like saying it's bad or whatever, but I
Yeah.
don't think it's bad. I think it's great. So yeah, did you have any thoughts on it?
Uh, no, I just, like the monumental bass. That's like the very first thing you hear, and like the way that the melodies are just like crying out in this super tense way, like and everything. It just has like a really dark, more metal kind of vibe that I think is a kind of thing that inherently appeals more to me. Um,
Yeah, because you're
it's
a
more,
nerd.
yeah, it's more of a Raven nerd kind of vibe, which is why I think it works better as a closer, probably.
Yeah,
Just because, just because I just have a huge weakness for this kind of thing going.
of course you do.
Yeah. Um, I yeah, the voice sample works for me. It has kind of like a wood blocky pitched percussion melody that's sort of further-esque that I think really adds to the dark atmosphere and is really nice. Um, even after well, I will say that I can kind of see what you mean about how it doesn't develop as much as it could after the main breakdown in the middle of the song.
Mhm.
But still, like, you got some almost sampled, more real kind of sounding hand drums coming in, playing a really fast and aggressive kind of melody. But even that's kind of subtle in the mix. It is a little bit of movement though, and it kind of just like helps hammer home the whole vibe of the song that's going on for me. But yeah, I don't know. I just think I really vibe with the what's being expressed here in the song. The particular vibe and emotion that it has.
Yeah,
Specific kind of darkness. And I think it works well as a closer because that kind of experience is really powerful for me. But I do respect Nil a lot too at this point.
good.
Teartear Teartear is my baby though. It
Yeah,
is my
of course it
baby.
is. um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I guess do you want to go into closing thoughts about the album?
Yeah, what an advancement. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we both agree that it is better than Incunabula on basically all fronts. I
Yeah.
will say that I think this album kind of has the lower points between the two albums. But regardless, I think it's still wonderful.
Yeah, and
I think it's better.
it occupies like the I don't know, there's kind of a base in that more texturally bright but melodically dark and
Mhm,
sad kind of feel,
mhm.
but it also feels like a much more colorful and varied album to me than Incunabula did, I think. And there's almost there are almost no sections that are so old that they feel hauntological.
Mhm.
It feels there's definitely been a modernized update to it. And yeah, what do you have to say about it?
Yeah, I agree with all that. My big flaw with the album lies in the sequencing. Um, I think
Yeah,
that
yeah,
I think that having just a nil there at the end would be good. And if you have to have tear like moving stuff around would be good. Having maybe further, I would remove 9 because it's just an interlude to me.
yeah.
It's not a particularly good interlude, and
Nine is the least essential song here for me. I
I think
agree.
Yulquen basically does what 9 does infinitely better. And
Yeah,
I think if you place that before
yeah,
between Piezo and further, and then have further go in either Nil or Tear, I think the album would flow a lot better. I'd also, get rid of Silverside just because it's not that good. Um,
I do
besides
like
that,
it more than I do like Silverside more than Nine. I will admit.
yeah, yeah, I
Whatever.
I like
'Cause-
9 more. But
okay.
I think generally the album is fantastic. I think it's a big step up from, maybe not a big step, but still a step up from Incunabula, which is itself a very good album. Um,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think I constantly underrate this album in my head. Um,
Yeah, I've had a bit of a tendency to do that too. Like earlier in my Autechre listening days, like Incunabula was my early Techer album that I really developed an attachment to. And then later on, I got into the later stuff with all of its wonders, as they dove later into the absolute vortex of gloriousness that they would become.
of New Autechre.
Yeah,
Yeah,
um,
and I want to exemplify like we're. I think we're pretty. I mean, like, besides a few tracks, I think we're being pretty positive.
Yeah,
about
yeah,
Autechre. And it's only gonna get better from here.
yeah.
Well, oh well. um, I think it mostly gets better from here.
Not a
Um,
total straight lineup, but for the
yeah,
most part.
yeah, we'll get there. But I think this album is really great.
It's good.
Uh,
It's really good.
yeah,
I've come to appreciate it more recently, just as its own thing.
yeah. Do you want to do your least faves and faves, and then give it like a rating or what?
Uh, yeah. Give me just a second here. Let me pull up the track list
We just
so I
talked
can.
about the entire album, and you can't remember
Oh,
the freaking track list. I
oh, I,
can't believe that.
I can say all the songs off the top of my head with no aid. Yeah, no.
I can.
You can because you're a giant nerd.
You're a bigger nerd, so it's okay.
Yeah, like, oh god. Okay, so like least faves, 9 Silverside foil. That like I don't really hate any of those tracks, but they're just like not quite on the same level as the others.
Yeah.
Yeah. As for faves, personally, I think my biggest highlight from the early album is Slip. Um,
Okay. Yeah.
that just like that's such a powerful and unique experience that's just not like a whole lot of other Autechre tracks,
Yeah.
you know. And then just oh god, yeah, Piezo, of course, fucking unspeakable. And then I really like just the whole closing sequence of I know that this is gonna make you mad, but just further Yulquen Teartear. Just
I'm angry.
all of those just own me.
Okay. Yeah. What would you rate it?
I'm gonna go with an 8.75.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I've decided I'm just gonna make track ranking for every album because that's how my brain works.
Okay,
Um.
go for it.
Last place at number 11 we have Silverside.
Ooh,
Followed by 9 at number 10.
9 at
Foil at
number
number
10.
9. Yeah, I know. Foil at number 9. Don't get mad, but Tear at number 8.
No.
Montreal at number 7. Slip at number 6. Nil at number 5. Further at number 4. Glitch at number 3. Piezo at number 2. And of course, Yulquen as the best song on this freaking album. And I do want to note that like Silverside 9 and Foil being the bottom 3 are significantly less good than Tear and Up. They're all
Yeah,
pretty similar quality
yeah.
wise.
Those 3 tracks are on their own quality tier, and then there's
Yeah,
everything else.
I'm glad that we agreed on that. I'm surprised that we agree on that, but yeah.
Yeah,
I also know that Amity made her own tracked ratings, which is not
yes,
the same as a
yes,
ranking. If she wants to edit those on screen, so
yeah,
I can get mad at them because she
yeah. But
is
yeah,
a poopy head, and she refused to give Glitch higher than a 3. And Yulquen is only 4 star. So I'm canceling her. She's going bye
oh
bye.
no,
But yeah,
oh no, into the void.
I think that I think this album is fantastic. Aside from those 3 tracks, I think the album is a step up from InQ. I'd give it I'm gonna say like a strong 8. Maybe on a good day, a light 9, but
Okay,
I'm gonna say mostly a strong 8.
okay,
Um, so
yeah, that sounds good.
so yeah, something like a as 8.75. would be
Yeah.
kind of the if I did that sort of thing. So yeah, I think that this album is great. I am
Cool.
excited for next week when we tackle Autechre's probably arguably their most critically acclaimed album.
Yeah. Ooh,
Try
that'll be
Repete.
interesting.
And we get to discuss that one. Spoiler alert, it's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna
It
be
is.
fun. In my
Yeah.
opinion, we're gonna have a fun discussion about that album. So please do not forget to tune in. Remember, if you can send in emails if you have any
Yes.
questions or if you want to make any like suggestions or comments, anything at CCCcast with a Z instead of an S as a reference to an Autechre song at gmail.com. It'll also be in the description. And I hope
Yeah.
that you enjoyed this podcast. I hope that you have an amazing day.
Yeah. CCC cast. Signing
Signing
out.
off.